When your loved one is upset about something, they may not even need to express it explicitly. Just by showing signs of displeasure, slamming doors, remaining silent for extended periods, or constantly changing the TV channels, they can make you feel their anger, and this can leave you feeling guilty. Therefore, whenever you interact with others, conflicts inevitably arise. You may want to do something, but your partner, parents, or friends may have different expectations or even attempt to control you into doing something else. This can trigger a sense of inner crisis. The reason is that even though you want to act according to your own will, you fear that your loved ones might perceive your desires as wrong, hesitate to hurt your parents' feelings, or simply do not want to harm your friendships. Consequently, while attempting to follow your own desires, you allow others to make you feel anxious and guilty. This can lead to frustration, anger, or anxiety, ultimately resulting in us being forced to act according to others' wishes and losing our self-esteem. To better understand how others manipulate you, you can categorize your relationships with them into 3 types. The first type is a business relationship where, regardless of your thoughts, commercial activities are already bound by numerous external rules, often in the form of legal terms or contractual obligations. In business relationships, if one party introduces controlling external rules without prior agreement, it can deprive you of the final judgment over your own future actions. The second type is an authoritative relationship, which involves a figure of authority. Both parties are not bound by commonly accepted rules, making you unable to be the ultimate judge of your actions. For example, the relationship between an employee and their boss falls into this category. When the boss requests you to work overtime at night, how should you respond? In most cases, employees might reluctantly agree due to the fear of displeasing their boss. This is an example of being controlled by authority. The third type is an equal relationship encompassing friendships, neighbors, colleagues, and spouses. In these relationships, most behaviors develop through mutually accepted compromises designed to maintain harmony without the need for daily negotiations about who does what when. In these 3 ways of interacting with others, the common root of the problem lies in the potential existence of 2 or even 3 different interaction patterns with the same person. The author provides an example. When you establish a business relationship with a friend, it's challenging to prevent business activities from affecting your equal and friendly relationship. This is an example of mutual manipulation resulting from mixed relationships. You may find that sometimes you have no choice but to treat the same person in 2 different ways. Once this situation arises, how can you free yourself from others' control? You must recognize that as long as you don't allow it, no one can control you. Our ancestors left us with 3 conflict resolution abilities: fighting, fleeing, and using language to solve problems. While you possess the innate abilities to fight and flee, problem solving doesn't necessarily require these 2 methods. In modern society, the best approach is assertiveness. Assertiveness means having confidence in your abilities, being self-assured, and handling situations with the belief that you can manage them regardless of the circumstances. In mixed relationships, only assertive self-determination can help you clarify your needs, carefully consider the conditions you are willing to accept at each stage, and thus counteract others' control. Only in this way can you conduct both business and maintain a friendly relationship with a friend. So, this concludes the first topic I've discussed today: why we need assertiveness. In life, subtle manipulation by others is prevalent, especially when you have multiple types of relationships with people. To avoid being manipulated, the best course of action is for you to assert yourself. Next, let's discuss the second key point: what are the 10 rules of assertiveness? Since others' control over you is ubiquitous, you must be assertive to avoid being manipulated. When you realize that you might be under someone else's influence, you need to be aware of the everyday assertive rules you possess in such situations. In this book, the author presents 10 assertive rules to help you resist being manipulated by others. The first assertive rule is you have the right to stand up for your actions, thoughts, and emotions, and to take responsibility for all the consequences. This may sound simple, but is an immensely important right. Everyone should have full control over their actions, thoughts, and emotions. If you're accustomed to being controlled by others, you might become less assertive and no longer view this right as your entitlement, eventually giving it up. The second assertive rule is to insist that you don't need to explain what you're doing. This right derives from your fundamental sovereignty. Only you have the authority to be the ultimate judge of your character and actions. When you become your own final arbiter, you can act according to your own will without the need for explanations or the judgment of others regarding your behavior. The third assertive rule is that you don't have to feel guilty for not being able to help others. Everyone must confront various challenges in life and learn to solve them on their own. You do not possess the ability and responsibility to solve all of others' problems. If you are unaware of your right to only be responsible for yourself, others may manipulate you by pushing their problems onto you and making you act according to their wishes as if it were your problem. The fourth assertive rule is that you have the right to change your mind. No one is static, and we all evolve our thoughts over time and in different circumstances. However, others may be unwilling to accept your new choices and may try to manipulate you with immature notions, such as the belief that once you've said something, you can't change it, and if you do change it, you're wrong. Thus, you should firmly believe that changing your mind, even if reasonable, is a normal part of life. The fifth assertive rule is making mistakes is not terrifying, but taking responsibility for them is. No one is flawless, everyone makes mistakes. You don't need to feel guilty for your mistakes or constantly seek to make amends. Others often exploit your guilt and your desire to rectify things to manipulate you for their specific purposes. These assertive rules can help you maintain independence and autonomy when facing others' manipulation, enabling you to better control your own life. In the upcoming content, we will continue to explore other assertive rules. The sixth assertive rule is you have the right to say, I don't know. You have the right to decide your thoughts independently and don't need to have all the answers before taking action. You also have the right to say, I don't know, without directly answering others' questions. If you consider all possible outcomes before taking action, you may end up hesitating and getting nothing done when the task is still undone. The seventh assertive rule is engage with people but don't deliberately seek their approval. Every individual is a part of society and cannot exist in isolation. Interacting with others is inevitable, but it doesn't mean we need to go out of our way to please everyone. Even if we do so, it's impossible to win everyone's favor. The eighth assertive rule is you have the right to make illogical decisions. Many people may try to manipulate you using logic, attempting to prove that your thoughts, actions, or emotions are incorrect. In their view, you must adhere to logic because logical reasoning trumps any judgment made by an individual. In reality, decisions based on logic may not always lead to problem resolution, as solutions often lie beyond logic. The ninth assertive rule is you have the right to say, I don't understand. No one can predict everything that will happen around them. Likewise, no one can always comprehend the intentions or needs of others. So, when someone says, why don't you understand me, it's often an attempt to manipulate you, trying to make you act according to their wishes. You can simply respond, I just don't understand. The 10th assertive rule is you have the right to say, I don't care. When someone tries to manipulate you, they might tell you that everyone has imperfections and flaws, and it's not a big deal as long as you strive for perfection according to their standards. Consequently, you end up having to act according to their supposed standards of perfection, falling under their control. Therefore, when someone points out your flaws, you can directly say, I don't care. These assertive rules have many overlapping aspects because they all stem from your fundamental right to be the ultimate judge of yourself. The most common notion behind others' manipulation is the same: you are not your own final judge, just manifested in different ways. This concludes the second topic I've discussed. What are the 10 rules of assertiveness? These rules can help you maintain independence and autonomy when facing others' manipulation, allowing you to better control your own life. In the upcoming content, we will continue to explore other assertive rules. Next, let's introduce the last key point, the 7 techniques for assertive behavior. While you understand the importance of being assertive, when faced with real-life situations, you might hesitate, believe you can't do it, or lose control of your emotions, shouting loudly and aggressively. However, these are not genuine assertiveness. Assertiveness is a psychological quality, and it means consistently stating your true thoughts, even in any situation. To exercise assertive rules and prevent others from controlling your actions, you need to change behaviors that make you susceptible to manipulation. The author presents 7 techniques for assertive behavior that will help you effectively exercise your rights in interpersonal relationships. The first technique for assertive behavior is the broken record technique. This approach involves calmly repeating your thoughts persistently, teaching you to be relentless and to handle others pleasantly without needing to rehearse how to argue or control your anger in advance. When using this technique, you should not be swayed by any words the other party says. Instead, you should courageously and calmly state your thoughts repeatedly until the other person agrees to your request. The purpose of learning this technique is to teach you to persist, and regardless of what you say, you will benefit from this determination. The second technique for assertive behavior is the feasible compromise technique. In certain situations, adopting an assertive attitude may not be realistic, especially when you have no control over the situation's outcome. In such cases, insisting on your rights may not be wise and might even be dangerous. For example, in the wilderness, facing a dozen people trying to rob you, being too assertive could lead to physical harm. while applying self-assertion skills, suggesting feasible compromises to the other party that do not compromise your self-esteem is reasonable. You can continue to negotiate with others to achieve your material goals. However, be cautious that if the proposed compromise jeopardizes your self-esteem, no compromise is possible. These techniques can help you better exercise your rights in interpersonal relationships, maintaining assertiveness while flexibly applying them based on specific circumstances, avoiding excessive assertiveness, and ensuring your interests and dignity. In the upcoming content, we will continue to explore other techniques related to assertive behavior. The third technique for assertive behavior is the free information technique. To communicate assertively and confidently in social situations, you must listen carefully to others' hints about themselves, known as free information, and follow up on them. This not only avoids awkward silences but also shows your respect for the other person, encouraging them to continue sharing. This method teaches you to recognize simple clues revealed in everyday conversations, indicating the other person's interests and priorities. It helps you converse confidently with others, inspiring them to express themselves more freely. The fourth technique for assertive behavior is the self-disclosure technique. This involves building strong connections with others by openly sharing your thoughts, feelings, and interests, as well as personal circumstances. Sharing your life experiences with the other person can encourage them to let their guard down and engage in genuine communication with you. This method teaches you to accept and initiate discussions about aspects of your personality, behavior, lifestyle, and more, whether positive or negative, improving social communication and reducing manipulative behavior. The fifth technique for assertive behavior is the fogging technique. This method involves calmly acknowledging that the critic may have a valid point when faced with criticism that may be manipulative. At the same time, you retain the right to judge your own actions. Once you've mastered this language skill, you can accept criticism from others with composure without feeling anxious or defensive. This also prevents those trying to manipulate you from succeeding. The sixth technique for assertive behavior is the negative inquiry technique. Everyone makes mistakes, and when others criticize your mistakes maliciously or accuse you of wrongdoing, you must learn to assertively confront your own faults. The simplest way is to neither exaggerate nor downplay your mistakes when discussing them. This is known as the negative inquiry technique, responding to criticism from others, whether malicious or well-intentioned, with a firm and empathetic agreement with their point. This teaches you to acknowledge your mistakes and faults without apologizing, enabling you to view your behavior or character flaws with a clear conscience, reducing guilt and anxiety while also reducing the critic's anger or hostility. The seventh technique for assertive behavior is the negative inquiry technique. This method encourages others to provide more criticism and feedback using language that lacks accusatory tones. If this feedback is constructive, you can consider incorporating it. If the criticism is manipulative in nature, you have the option to ignore it. Mastering this language skill allows you to comfortably seek criticism and advice from others in intimate relationships while also prompting them to express negative emotions authentically. This improves communication and interaction between you and others. To summarize today's content, we first explored why assertiveness is necessary. In daily life, various aspects such as family, workplace, and friendships may involve external control and personal timidity, leading to numerous conflicts and anxieties. The key to resolving these issues lies in assertiveness. Secondly, we introduced the 10 rules of assertiveness, which are essentially core concepts related to assertiveness. The most crucial of these is the right to be the ultimate judge of your own actions, from which the other assertiveness rules derive. Finally, we discussed the 7 techniques for assertive behavior. Understanding these techniques not only requires knowledge of the assertiveness rules but also an understanding of how to apply these rights effectively. Mastering these techniques for assertive behavior enables you to better exercise your rights when dealing with interpersonal relationships. In conclusion, assertiveness is not only a psychological trait but also an essential tool for protecting oneself and preserving one's rights in complex interpersonal relationships.